remember when I joined LaSalle Partners, the predecessor firm to Jones Lang LaSalle. And I was the shiny new pet object. A Black guy, went to West Point, went to Harvard Business School, phenomenal leadership experience in the Army. And by golly, I'm going to adopt him. And a lot of people did. Okay. But I'm the pet. As I progressed in my career, which happened fairly quickly, you go from being a pet to a threat, because most people see the world as a zero-sum game. The pie is the pie. And you see somebody else whom you may have even helped get to that point, and all of a sudden you wake up one day and say, wait a minute, there's not going to be any pie left for me. And people's reactions, nothing so drastic and overt that it would constitute, action that should be taken by someone. But just the covert activity of understanding that this person whom I've been trying to help, and they were my pet because I felt very good about what I was doing to help them. All of a sudden, they're a managing director. They're running a business. Oh my gosh, you're a threat. And that some people don't like it when I bring up that analogy. I want your listeners to be aware of the reality of that analogy.
The pet to threat. There's two things that come to mind. Number one, you're absolutely right. I think we all have experienced, if you're a woman of color, African-American, a man of color, that yes, you were hired in. You were the one person hired in. But as you began to succeed, yes, we have experienced where we've been a threat. Even opening up our, when I think about opening up our own company 15 years ago, we've gone through that same cycle as well. And what I find interesting, which you touched on, is the fact that why is it that we would not be secure enough to want to see that our success are those who do move ahead of us? Are those who do better than us? Or, maybe we're afraid to promote someone because we think they're going to move ahead, or, even when it comes to people of color, but why aren't we celebrating that as people, whether it's people of color or not? I think you hit on that a little bit more as well. I find that goes very much with even the purpose of this podcast when I think of not compromising yourself personally or professionally. And I think it has to do with character. Because the fact is that you celebrate those that are leading their path. And even if they surpass you, you celebrate it all the more because you've been successful in helping them get to where they're going. And that goes for a platform, whether it's people of color, African American, or whether it's women, or whether it is, whoever it may be. I hope that made sense to you as well.
Oh, it definitely resonates with me. And I just think it's important in terms of, us thinking about the future and those who are successful salmon running up the stream. Don't forget where you came from. Okay. What I mean by that is you certainly achieve success in some sense. That does not mean that you lose your identity in something you said at the beginning of this podcast, authenticity of who you are as an individual. And you can't let the bright sun and the stars blind you as to the reality of the real world that you live in.
Well said. Well said. This segues into my next question for you. And I think you've hit on it, because this was the other thing I wanted to say, and you said this. There is no other option but to diversify. Like you said, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's a business decision at this point. We can take the emotion out of it. It's a business decision. We need people at the table who are leading and making decisions that look like the marketplace they serve. So for us, that is literally how we approach it. That is bottom line. It's a business decision. And knowing that, what do you believe people compromise the most within business environments?
Probably expediency, right? If you look at, I have the pleasure of serving on several corporate boards, and I'm actually chair of a public company board. And the reality of quarter to quarter, that's kind of where the grades come in. You get your grades, and the majority of the boards I've been on, there's no doubt at times we're looking at that quarter because you got to look at it. However, if you have the discipline to truly be long-term, and some corporations you're long-term and the activists come in, you're no longer there. So it's a really difficult balancing act, and the expediency portion of it. And what some examples of that, particularly as it relates to diversity, everybody focuses on the input pipe. We got all these people and we get them in. And what is important, is what I talk about is, yes, I want to see that, but I want to understand about the retention and advancement. Because I cannot tell you, Lisa, I am not going to take all the credit for it, but I will tell you probably at least 5 times a week, and sometimes 10 times a week, I get calls from African-American men and women about JLL. And the point I'm making here is that branding is so important. JLL, we've done a phenomenal job in improving over the years. And fortunately or unfortunately, for the last probably 20, maybe even 25 years, I've been the senior most prominent person at JLL as an African-American, I would say, person of color.
Yes.
And people see that and they embody something positive and say, and it's a responsibility I have. Hey, I want to be like you.